Application Programming Interface, or API. Up until now, any data in a program has either been inputted or stored somewhere, i.e. as a variable, in a library, etc. What if we wanted to write a program using real data in real time? For example, what if we wanted to write a program that showed you the weather in different cities and states? Wouldn't that list differ depending on the actual weather occurring in real time? How can we write programs that would be able to access the most up-to-date data needed? An application programming interface, or API, acts as an intermediary between a program and another piece of software containing data. The API allows communication between the two by building protocols and outlining directions for how communication should occur. By doing so, a connection is established that allows the program to access and use data from the software. There are millions of APIs available online that can provide a programmer with a variety of data. Access to data can expand a program's functionality in use. It is also much more practical to gather data from a source than to try to program it all yourself. APIs ensure data is up to date, provide access to any amount of data, and provide a user-free repeated action on a dataset. The API used in your program depends on the type of data you want to access. There are APIs available to track air quality and others to gather memes or images of a certain type. Below are just a few examples of public Python APIs: weather, Yahoo Finance, and flight data. In order to access data from an API source, there must be a way to request it so the program can use it. And it is just that easy. The request library is used in a program to access sites and the content within them. Making a request to an API is similar to libraries. We first need to import the requests library. Import requests. Once the request library is imported, the command get can be used to perform the initial request of an API. Inside the get function, the URL of where the desired data is located is written in double quotes, shown here. This is referred to as a base URL. It is the location where our program will gather data from. Here, we have defined a variable to hold the information retrieved from the request. The address of the base URL for APIs usually contains API within it. For example, if we wanted to pull data from the Twitter API, we would use the following URL. Here we have https://api.twitter.com. However, not all APIs are easily accessible. How do we know if this one is? There are two commands within the request library that can let us know if we've gotten access to the data in the API: status code and reason. A status code will return a grouping of 3 values from 1 of 5. The value of the first number in the group tells us what is occurring with the connection to the API. So a 3-digit number that starts with a 1 means that the request is processing. If it starts with a 2, it means the request was accepted. A 3 means that more must be done to accept the request. A 4 means there's a user error, and a 5 means there's a server error. In your code, type in the print statement below, which uses status code to print the result of trying to access the Twitter API stored in the data variable. So here we have our request for the Twitter API. Print data.status code. The output is 404. Since the first number is a 4, that means there's a user error. This is because Twitter requires authentication before using their API. In addition to status code, we can use reason to provide additional information about the API. So here we add on this line, print data.reason, and that adds not found. Due to Twitter not being a public API, the program could not access the data within it and so returned not found. APIs store data, and with some industries, that data is private and cannot be accessed by just anyone. When a company creates an API for their data, They can determine how publicly accessible their data is and regulate the release of it. There are 3 different platforms that are used to control how requests can be made from APIs. Each differs slightly depending on the security needs of the data the API contains. SOAP, or Simple Object Access Protocol, REST, or Representational State Transfer, and GraphQL. To learn more about each of these types of APIs, click here. So, Twitter is private and can't be accessed. If you're working with APIs, it's good to know where you have public access to data. Below is just a short list of publicly accessible APIs. Click here to access a much more extensive list. Let's try to access a free and public API. Change the URL in your code to this URL here. It's an API that searches and returns random dog images and dog breeds. Your print statements will output 200 and OK. The 2 at the beginning of this 3-digit number indicates that the request was accepted, and the reason of OK means we have established a connection to the API.